Hello, everyone. Dr. Victoria Skirbo here, speaking to you from the Seeds of Transformation Healing Center in Wareham, Massachusetts. It's time to look at the week ahead in astrology. I'm going to just do this week because there's an awful lot happening in March, and this week is no exception. As I look through the aspects that are happening this week, my sense of the energy is one of preparation. I feel like a lot of the planets are preparing for a shift into something completely new. And of course, that's going to happen next week when we both have the Sun, Mercury move into Aries, and Pluto move into Aquarius and have a new moon in Aries. So next week is a whole sort of new thing that's happening. This week that we're going to be looking at is a bit of a preparation for that. But also there are things that have been percolating for a while that are coming to decision time, coming to a head, and coming to a need to make a change and take an action or change your mind about something. So we'll take a look and see what that is about. And I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so let's take a look and see what we have here. So this is just a quick sort of overview, and then we'll look at the charts. Well, at least until we're going to be looking first at the 12th, this 15th, and the 16th. There are a lot of things happening on those days. The first day, Sunday, March 12th, which is actually today, as I'm doing this, we have Jupiter conjunct Chiron at 15 degrees of Aries. This is a particularly important period of time and a particularly important aspect because these conjunctions only happen every 14 or so years. Last time this conjunction occurred was 2009, of which I could talk unendingly about. We're going to look at some charts from 2009 just to kind of set up what this Chiron Jupiter conjunction might indicate. However, now that it's happening at 15 degrees of Aries. We'll take a look at that. On Tuesday, the 14th, we have Mars make a last quarter square to Neptune. Hold on, last quarter square to Neptune. Is it actually a last quarter square to Neptune? Neptune and Pisces. It's actually a first quarter square. I have to change that. It is a crisis in action. I might actually have changed that already on the actual. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's a crisis in action. It is also the third of three because of Mars's retrograde motion. While in Gemini, it has made 3 squares to Neptune. We'll talk about it. We also have a last quarter crisis in consciousness moon on the 14th. That's part of the new moon or the lunation cycle. That began with the new moon in Pisces. On the 15th, beware the Ides of March, as it were, we have the Sun make a conjunction to Neptune at 26 degrees of Pisces. We have, and on the next day, the 16th, we have Mercury make a conjunction to Neptune. At 26, is it 26 or 27? I'll check when we get there, sorry. Also on the 16th, the Sun makes a last quarter square to Mars, crisis in consciousness between the Sun and Mars. The Sun and Mars only come together every 2 years. It's a biennial cycle. Venus, also on the 16th, we have Venus make a first quarter square to Pluto. This is a crisis in action square. And we have to remember that the first aspect that actually happened in 2023 was a conjunction of Pluto and Venus. So this goes back to the beginning of the year, whatever energy was planted at that time now comes to a point of where we need to take action on it. And we also then have Venus ingress into Taurus. Now, of course, Venus has been in Aries. Venus isn't that comfortable in Aries generally, but very comfortable in Taurus. And so she's in her power in Taurus. And of course, the North Node is in Taurus. So she is the ruler of the North Node, and she will be in Taurus herself. And next week, at the very beginning of next week, we have Venus make a conjunction to the North Node. So we will look at that next week because there's plenty to look at this week. Okay, let me do this. This is better because it's easier to see. Okay, let's go. So let's get started this week. March 12th, today, Jupiter conjunct Chiron at 15 degrees of Aries. Incidentally, the vibration of the day is a 22-4. That is the Fool card. So this is associated with the planet Uranus. Where is Uranus in this chart? Oh, here she is. Oh, it is. I guess we should say he is. It is. They are. It's here at 16 degrees of Taurus, right in the middle of Taurus there. Okay, so Jupiter conjunct Chiron at 15 degrees of Aries. This is the start of a new synodic cycle to expand the healing of the self. The Sabian symbol for 15 degrees of Aries is an Indian weaving a ceremonial blanket, projecting into everyday living the realization of wholeness and fulfillment. This is understanding that we can actually create in everyday ways the life that we want to live. And this is, and not only the life we want to live, but who we want to be, because we're talking about Aries here. We're talking about Aries. If we look at the ruler of Aries, we have Mars here at 23 degrees of Gemini. Now, I think I have the book here, do I? I do not. Okay, I can't read that Sabian symbol for you. Oddly, I can't read that. Okay. So this cycle, being a larger synodic cycle, takes a longer amount of time. It takes about 7 years before we have the opposition of this conjunction. And when we get to the opposition part of a cycle, it's the halfway point. It's also the point where we get to see what is manifested. And so if you add, so we're looking at around 2030 when we're really going to get a sense. But we are at the start of this, and the start does matter. The start does matter. These are the conjunctions that occurred the last time Chiron was conjunct Jupiter. On May 23rd, in 2009, we had it at 27 degrees of Aquarius, an ancient pottery bowl filled with fresh violets. The importance of traditional skills and artistic values deeply rooted in man's instinctive feelings as a frame of reference for man's authentic emotions. Okay. On July 22nd of 2009, it happened again. Why is this happening again? Well, because Jupiter went retrograde. So now Jupiter is going over this point again with Chiron, only this time Jupiter is retrograde. And we have it at 25 degrees of Aquarius. And it says, a man having overcome his passion teaches deep wisdom in terms of his experience, the constructive use to which difficult past experiences can be put as examples for those who are still striving to overcome their passions. Now, and there's one more, and we'll look at it, but I want to point this out because this is the cycle that just ended. As we move into this conjunction between Chiron and Jupiter, the last cycle of Chiron and Jupiter has come to a conclusion. One of the things about Aquarius is a trauma signature. And so Jupiter conjunct Chiron in Aquarius is can be the expansion of a sense of being different, of being isolated, of being different than everybody else. And that can be a very wounding experience. And so you can be very much feeling like an outsider, or you might, and that may make you kind of like what was his name, Kaczynski, the Unabomber. That can kind of bring you into Unabomber territory. It can make you so group oriented that you go by what the group says, and it doesn't matter what your eyes are showing you, or what logic may dictate, or even what feelings may dictate, because you don't want to get kicked out of the group, that you don't want to get kicked out of your tribe. There's a large tribalism here. The other thing that's interesting is this conjunction, and the next conjunction, a little less so, but certainly this first conjunction, were all opposite Donald Trump's Mars. And the only reason I bring him into the picture is because 2009 was when Barack Obama became president. And so this is when all that birtherism was born, right? The birtherism, this idea of he's not from here kind of thing. He is an alien. He is a stranger. He doesn't belong here kind of energy. All right, let's take a look at the last one. And we have 22 degrees of Aquarius here. A rug is placed on a floor of a nursery, allowing the children to play with comfort and warmth, the warmth of understanding which comes from those who early in life are open to new possibilities. And so this was the third conjunction of Chiron and Jupiter. And as I said, this has come to a fruition. The healing aspect of this, cycle could very well be the fact that although you are different, you can accept yourself for being different. You can accept yourself for being outside of there's a outside looking in quality to Aquarius that everybody with Aquarius in their chart can understand in a way, especially if you have Chiron in Aquarius in your chart, in your natal chart. So, and the other thing about these, and I'll go back to the other two just to show you, we have to notice here that Neptune was there as well. This was the same time we had a Jupiter-Neptune conjunction, Jupiter and Neptune conjunction, another sort of 14-year cycle. I think it's a 13-year cycle, where it's the expansion of consciousness, Now, we just had last year another Jupiter-Neptune conjunction that is going to last about 13 years, I believe. That synodic cycle, and that was in Pisces, if you remember. We had Jupiter conjunct Chiron in Pisces. So, yeah. So that was the last, I believe it was Pisces, was it? No. What am I talking about? No, I'm mistaken. Of course, the next aspect is in Aries, which is what we're having now. Okay, just ignore what I just said. Not everything, just the last thing I said. Sometimes I think too hard. All right, on the 14th, March 14th, we have Mars make a first quarter square to Neptune. This 26 degrees, Gemini, Pisces, Mars in Gemini, of course, Neptune in Pisces. This is the third of three. The first one occurred on the 12th of October at 24 degrees in Gemini, Pisces. This was right around the time, if I remember correctly, where the Ukrainian army was showing just how adept they were at protecting themselves and not giving up, not standing down, but standing up for their rights, with the help, of course, of the free world. We had a second one on November 19th at 23 degrees of Gemini, Pisces, and then this final one on the 14th of March at 26 Gemini, Pisces, Mars at 26 of Gemini, frost-covered trees against winter skies, the revelation of archetypical form and essential rhythms of existence. Essential rhythm, essential rhythm of existence. Square Neptune at 26 of Pisces, watching the very thin moon crescent appearing at sunset. Different people realize that the time has come to go ahead with different projects. The keen appreciation of the value of individualized responses to any challenge in life. And so we've come to a point here, perhaps, where we realize that the best thing for us to do is live our best lives, is to actualize ourselves, aligned, sort of aligned with this energy of spirituality, being your authentic self. Perhaps now that we have a new conjunction between Chiron and Jupiter, we're realizing the value of our own capacities and our own talents and abilities, and hopefully we can bring those forth, because we're going to need a lot of help to get this world back on track, so to speak, or to actually not really get it back on track, because we don't want to get it back on track. We are creating a world at a higher level of understanding and energetic capacity. And so we have to, people are realizing the power they have as individuals and as groups. And so we need to align with our power. But the thing is, true power comes from the higher realms. True power comes from our true power as human beings, is that in our heart, is our heart power. So that doesn't necessarily mean power over, but it means immanence. It means feeling powerful within yourself and being able to express the best of yourself. On the 15th, we have the sun make a conjunction to Neptune. This happens every year. And the sun brings illumination. Neptune brings a sense of oneness, of unity. It can also be delusional. There can be a delusional quality to Neptune. It really is an imagination. It's a powerful imaginal force. And so it's best to use it to your best advantage. And many people do. However, their best advantage is not necessarily your best advantage. So what we have to sort of keep in mind when we're working with this energy is for the good of all, because Neptune really is about unity consciousness. So this particular conjunction is happening at 26 degrees of Pisces. We have the same symbol here, watching the very thin crescent moon appearing at sunset. Different people realize that its time has come to go ahead with their different projects. This should lead to the realization of the fallacy of totalitarianism. I mean, this is what it says in the book. You cannot make this up. This is from Dane Rudger. At times, we can act like despots, demanding that others react to any situation exactly as we do. But we really can't do that, because we're all different and we all have different talents. And it is in the combination of the differences that the power comes. It's not the powerness of the sameness, even though I talk about unity consciousness. Unity consciousness is one heart, many minds, many ideas, with one sort of central focus of oneness and unity. And then, of course, we also have Mercury conjunct Neptune. This happens on the 16th. This is a princess or a page of wands vibration energy of the day. And this is the princess or the page of wands is always about our psychic abilities. So we have, again, this energy of this on at 26 degrees of Pisces. This is all happening at 26 degrees of Pisces because everything really here is at 26 degrees of Pisces, and everything is squaring Mars. Now, as Mars makes this last square to the Pisces planets, along with it, it's bringing this giant wave. If anyone has watched Cash Peters, I think it was two of his videos ago, he did a video. He wanted to know the energy of March. And first there was like a wave where you felt buoyant, and then there was a giant tidal wave coming after that. And as what he suggested is you just go with the flow, because when it's something that big, you just kind of have to go with the flow. I know when I was in the ocean and I used to do body surfing on the Jersey Shore, which is the only kind of surfing I did, use my body, that was it. If you saw a wave coming that was too violent, like you didn't want to necessarily put your body between the wave that was coming and the bottom of the ocean, that was definitely going to like scrape up your belly, you would dive into the wave. You'd see the wave coming and you would sort of go this way into the wave and just have to wait until the wave passed, and then you would find yourself here, and then the wave would be, would hit the shore and not take you out with it. So that's kind of the energy that we have to work with these waves of energy coming. Also on this day, we have Sun making a last quarter square to Mars. Here it is, the Sun, Mars, and of course we have the Sun, we have Mercury, we have Neptune, all together in that square to Mars. It just happens exactly separately, but it's one giant wave, guys, one giant wave. This is a crisis in consciousness of a cycle that began with the conjunction of the Sun and Mars. That actually occurred back in 2021. The Sun-Mars cycle is, the cycle between them is a biennial or 2-year cycle. And it occurred on the 8th of October at 16 degrees of Libra. You can't make this shit up, man. The Sabian symbol, after a storm, a boat landing stands in need of reconstruction. The need to help in operation, steady links between the vast unconscious and the ego consciousness, right? This ocean being the vast unconscious, and the landing being the ego. So we are in for a big wave of a sort, and just do your best to keep your head above water, because that's really what we need to do. We don't have, this is one of those times when things are going to happen no matter what we do. And so you have to go with the flow of the energy, and it's pretty powerful. And you may even find yourself in a different place than you were before. Using the analogy of the, diving into the wave, sometimes you would dive into the wave and things were just so like that when you come up, you'd be in a different place than you started. And you wouldn't really know, because you had to wait for the wave to finish cresting and moving on so that you could come up and see where you landed. So that's kind of the energy here. All right, so on the 16th as well, 16th, a very busy day, by the way, we have Venus make a first quarter square to Pluto. Remember, Venus and Pluto made a conjunction on the first day of the year. This is action. This is a crisis in action. So it's actions taken to create foundations for the seeds planted at the Venus-Pluto conjunction. That occurred at 28 degrees of Capricorn. Incidentally, the United States Pluto is at 28 degrees of Capricorn. A large aviary. The enjoyment of spiritual values by the soul able to familiarize itself with their implications. The large aviary, the symbol of the large aviary, is one sort of location where birds of many colors and many songs and bird language, many bird languages, get to live in harmony with each other. And sometimes it can be confusing, and sometimes it can be noisy and everybody's yelling at the same time. I have a parrot, so I know from whence I speak. But ultimately, knowing that there'll be times of confusion, knowing that there'll be times of disruption. Birds are very territorial. One of the things that you hear in the spring now with all the birds singing is not just to tell the other birds that, hey, I'm here, it's time to make bird babies, but also, hey, I'm here and this is where I'm putting my nest and you better stay away. So there's always boundaries here with birds, but healthy boundaries, so that we can live together in harmony in the same area. That's really what this symbol talks about. So both Venus and Pluto are now poised to enter the next sign. That was the initial conjunction of this cycle. Now we're at the square. Where is Venus and Pluto? Well, they're at the last degrees of the sign. In the case of Venus, it's at the last degrees of Aries. In the case of Pluto, it's in the last degree of Capricorn, because next week, Pluto is going to move into Aquarius. And later today, later on the 16th, just checking, Venus is going to move into Taurus. Venus is going to move into Taurus. So Venus moves into Taurus before Pluto moves into Aquarius. And then Pluto moves into Aquarius on the 23rd next week. The Sabian symbols for Venus at 30 degrees of Aries is a duck pond and its brood, the realization of natural boundaries. A power must accept the principle of focalization. So this is about understanding that you have a certain amount of agency, but within your own sort of realm. Like there are boundaries here. You need healthy boundaries in order for you to have dominion. You can't have dominion over everything. You have to have dominion over what you have dominion over. So an ability to focalize your energy instead of wanting everything, figure out like what it is that is most perhaps essential in your life. It's square Pluto at 30 degrees of Capricorn, a secret meaning of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs, the power to assume responsibility for crucial choices arrived at after mature discussions. This is the last degree of Capricorn. The one thing about Capricorn is they make sure that the structures are good, all the I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, all of that, and that they can make the best decision with the most amount of information based on their experience, right? So we have the key word here as executive power. We have to make a choice, guys. We have to make a choice. Venus, Pluto. Venus is what we value. Pluto is the power to actuate that which is what is essential in our lives. And for most of us, food, shelter, safety is a good start. Without those things, we cannot actualize ourselves as human beings. So the more chaos there is, the more wars there are, the more instigation of this stuff is oppressing the people and not allowing us to express ourselves. Well, it's not gonna work, guys. Pluto's moving into Aquarius, the sign of humanity. Humanity is going to stand up to this. And then later in the day, we have Venus move into Taurus. The Sabian symbol, a clear mountain stream, the pure, uncontaminated, and spontaneous manifestation of one's own nature. Because Venus is the ruler of the North Node, and the North Node is the direction forward to our evolution, we need to be uncontaminated, spontaneous, and a manifestation of our own nature. We need to be ourselves as purely and as authentically as we can. And of course, Venus deals with the heart, right? Venus deals with love and relationship. So we need to be the best person that we can be for ourselves first, Taurus, and then for others, Libra, the other ruler, the other sign ruled by Venus. We continue week 3 with Friday the 17th. That's St. Patrick's Day. We have a last quarter square between Mercury and Mars. We have a sextile between the sun and the moon. This is a waning sextile. This is an opportunity for us to share what we have learned through the Pisces new moon cycle. It is time for progressive change. And that is change on the seeds planted at that new moon at 2 degrees of Pisces, way back when, remember? We also have on this day a superior conjunction between Mercury and the sun. That means that we have the Earth here, the sun, and then Mercury is on the other side of the sun. So we can't see Mercury, but it is in alignment with the sun and with the Earth. And when it's on the other side of the sun, it almost acts like an opposition, even though technically you can't have an opposition with the sun and Mercury. It's more of an opposition with the sun in the middle between the Earth and Mercury. And so it's an opportunity for some perspective, but is also, the sun is the life giver. And when Mercury conjuncts, there's a message from the life giver. And that's occurring at 27 degrees of Pisces. Venus makes a waxing sextile to Saturn. This is part of the Venus-Saturn synodic cycle, and it is the opening of the lines of communication. The opening of the lines of communication. Venus made a conjunction to Saturn earlier in the year in Aquarius. And of course, Venus in Aquarius deals with friendship. And let's be friends, guys. One of the things I think that's most important is in this time of division, we need to really find, while we need to have our own groups where we can feel safe and we can actualize ourselves, because it's not that easy to actualize yourself outside of the group, perhaps because it's more dangerous now than ever, actually. But at the same time, we need to be able to keep connected between the groups, because although there will be groups that won't connect, they will not survive, really, I don't think, without connecting the whole of us, And then on the 18th, we have Mercury making a waxing sextile to Pluto. And this is opening the lines of the communication to the soul. Let's take a look at the 17th. This is a big day, a lot of things happening. I put everything on this chart. But the aspect here, what we're seeing is the square between Mercury and Mars. This is a last quarter crisis in thought, belief, or consciousness. On the seeds planted at the Mercury-Mars conjunction of 2021. Mercury-Mars has 3 conjunctions. It occurs when Mercury's direct, Mercury's retrograde, and Mercury's direct again. And Mercury and Mars can only conjunct every 2 years when Mars is close enough to the sun. The next year, after that conjunction, Mars is on the other side making oppositions to the sun, and that's when we have the Mars retrograde cycles, of which we just came out of one in Gemini. First conjunction, 13 degrees of Virgo, happened on 8/18/21. That vibrated to a 31/4. That's in Gabura in the Tree of Life. That is the place of instant karma and associated with the planet Mars, the color red. It is the 5 of Wands, so it can be chaotic but creative. The second conjunction was at 17 degrees of Libra. That occurred on the 9th of October 2021. That vibrated to a 24/6, which is Bayonet's the Queen of Wands, So we have the 5 of Wands and the Queen of Wands, and then the third conjunction occurred at 8 degrees of Scorpio on the 10th of November 2021. That's a 26/8. That is Malkuth. That is the night. The page of Wands. So it's all Wands. All of these conjunctions occurred in fire spirit elements, if you look at it from the view of the Tree of Life. If you look at it from the view of us, it was earth. From the signs, we have earth, and air and water, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. Virgo is about service, Libra is about relationship, and Scorpio is about the death of the ego. And so these are where the initial conjunctions occurred. Now we come to this last quarter, crisis in consciousness state, with Mercury at 27 degrees of Pisces. The harvest moon illumines a clear autumn sky, the light of fulfillment that blesses work well done. That is Mercury squaring Mars at 27 degrees of Gemini. A gypsy emerging from the forest, wherein her tribe is encamped, reaching out towards participation in a larger whole of mind-structured existence. So this is about coming out of the proverbial gypsy closet, quite frankly. The work that you've done, even if you've done the work in isolation, and even if you've done the work without a tribe, the work that you've done is good. It is time to come out of the clearing, to come to be seen, to be heard, to express yourself, as it were. Oh, let me continue. I skipped. There's like a whole bunch of other stuff happening. We also have that Mercury Sun superior conjunction here at 27 degrees of Pisces. And so we're looking here, the harvest moon illuminates a clear autumn sky, the light of fulfillment that blesses work well done. It's really, really important at this time to find the things that fulfill you, including your work, right? One of the things that COVID helped many of us to do is really ask, what have we been doing all this time, and what do we want to do? Do we want to continue on that path, or don't we? And we found out that a lot of people don't really want to work for other people. They don't want to do the same thing. Life is precious. There are so many other things, including your relationship to your family, which many of us were forced to live with for 2 or 3 years. Even though we lived with them our whole lives, we didn't have to spend 24/7 with them stuck in the house. So we all kind of learned who we live with, really. We also have Venus making a waxing sextile to Saturn. This is an opening of the lines of communication. Here's Saturn at 106, and here's Venus. This happens later in the day as Venus moves to 1 to 2 degrees of Pisces, 2 degrees of Pisces. Mercury's waxing sextile to Pluto. Waxing means it's growing. This is opening the lines of communication to the world soul. Pluto in the sky is the soul of humanity. It's the world soul, and it's about to move into Aquarius, the sign of humanity. Okay, we have Mercury at 30 degrees of Pisces. A majestic rock formation resembles a face, is idealized by a boy who takes it as his own ideal of greatness, and he grows up and begins to look like that majestic rock. The power of clearly visualized ideals to mold the life of the visualizer. This is about creative imagination and your ability to create the life that you want, right? Mercury in 30 degrees of Pisces. Sextile. Now remember, sextiles are opportunistic. It opens the line of communication with Pluto. Secret meeting of men responsible for executive decisions in world affairs. The power to assume responsibility for crucial choices arrived at after mature discussion with those who share this power. Executive power. So what is Pluto telling us? Pluto says, manifest your destiny by visualizing and focus on that which you want to become, and become it. And become it. All right, and that is the story, Morning Glory. Just as a sort of like, what's going to happen next week, just to kind of like give you a vibe. Mercury ingresses into Aries. Whenever a planet moves into one of the cardinal signs, It's a world point, so we have the energy of the mind moving into the beginning of the cycle. We have the sun making a waxing sextile to Pluto. Again, this is opening the lines of communication, and then an illumination of that. The sun ingresses into Aries. This is the vernal or autumnal equinox, depending on what part of the world you live in. It is a time when dark and light are equal. So this is a balanced time, Tuesday, the 21st, we have a new moon in Aries, 1 degree of Aries. On the 23rd, which is a Thursday, we have Pluto ingress into Aquarius. Voila! That's what everybody's talking about. Saturday, Mars ingresses into Cancer, finally out of its retrograde shadow, guys. Finally out of its shadow, finally out of Gemini. Not too thrilled with being in Cancer, but it's still, we rest our minds a little bit once Mars goes into Cancer. It's really actually a good ingress for cleaning your house. So it's a good ingress for spring cleaning, as it were. And then we have Mars making inconjunct to Pluto, because now Mars is just into Aries, just into Cancer, and Pluto just moved into Aquarius, and Aquarius and Cancer are in conjunct to each other. That combination, Cancer tends to be very insular, very sensitive, very internally oriented, very emotional. Aquarius tends not to be that way. It tends to be more about the, going out into the group or expressing yourself in a group. It's much more, in a way, dissociated. It's much more mentally oriented. It has an ability to be very, very objective. So there's going to be a very, very much an objective perspective on what actions we need to take, And let me see, is that it? Or is there a little bit more here? I think there might be just a little more. Nope, that's it. The next week. That's plenty. We'll talk about it next week. All right, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope it wasn't too much technical stuff. I want to thank you all for your support. I want to thank all my new students in my Kabbalah class. I'm looking forward to tomorrow night's class. And I want to give a special thank you to Cash Peters for being so gracious. I know he said that it made him feel good. He can't help himself. He also made me feel good. It's just his nature. He's got a very, very, he's a very kind man with a beautiful soul. So I want to thank him for that, and welcome all the new subscribers. Thanks to Cash, or thanks to anybody else who has shared me. I really appreciate it. The more I can get my work out there, I think the more it can help people, which is really kind of what I'm trying to do. And then also trying to support myself through the process. So thank you, everyone. Much love. Namaste.